I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I have a few things here, kind of privilege of the floor. First thing for the board members, if you're going to be speaking, turn your mic on. We don't have anyone yet, but we may have, well, if we have somebody come in on Zoom, then you can turn your mic on. You just turn it on by pushing a little button. This little red thing will show up. When you turn it off, you have to hold it.
I would say, I don't know.
We can all turn them on. You know. Just a reminder, don't shuffle a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay. There's an update to the agenda. I messed up a bit. And there should be a new business category. And that is a code update proposal for short-term rental. Birch passed one out for us last month. I did not include it in your packet because I forgot about it until a few days ago. I did make copies of it, but that's our new business on the agenda tonight. Okay, short-term rental code updates. On your table in front of you, I left some handouts. First one are training opportunities, online webinars. There's the registration is on top. And this is a certified training thing. All of these are available for planning board training credits. So this is just a start. I'll be sending you additional ones as they come out throughout the year. Maybe we won't have to wait until December 26th to get them done this year. If you do, that's okay, but a lot of opportunities for training, and some of them actually sound interesting. So the second thing, Christopher Vestolo stopped in the other night and handed me these things, and it's a cover letter from our supervisor and a map. They're basically looking at establishing a vision for the future of the county park system, and they want people to kind of look over this map. This is what's an existing map. He's got some comments there, and you could feed it back. Any feedback you have for it, just give it directly to Christopher Vestolo, our supervisor. And then the third thing I put on your table was this. It's an application, just a cover sheet and a final survey map that goes for Dave Costanza. He's going to be in the last one tonight on our agenda. I didn't have the map in time for the packet. I had spoken with him and he told me he had it, but he didn't get it. And we'll have large maps when he gets here. I can kind of distribute them when we want to look at them. So for that application, we've already gone through the preliminary and the seeker, and we've approved everything. We were waiting for the subdivision map. So those were three things I wanted to mention to you before we get started here. So this one you put on the end of your packet, because it'll do it at the end. Moving on, privilege of the floor. Is there anything that anyone would like to mention to the board that's not on the agenda? Anyone at all? Okay. So let's go to approval of the minutes. Holly included the minutes from the December meeting. Any corrections? Not, I'll have a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Birch, second. Paul Miller, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Thank you. So these approved minutes will go on the website now. So from now on, any minutes on the website are approved minutes. We don't have to worry about that or think about that anymore. Did you want one of those? Sure. All right, so we're going to go through reports. First report is a town board. meeting. Hi, Scott. Welcome. So the town board met on January 9th. They had their annual organizational meeting, setting the mileage rate for mileage that we might claim. You can claim mileage if you're driving to a town-sponsored event, planning or training session or something like that. The mileage would be from the town hall to your location, 65 cents a mile. You would put that on your voucher when you submit the voucher for the cost of the training. So that was the only one thing. The rest of the items here, they're all boilerplates. They do it every year. Just naming the bank, using the rules and procedure orders, including the Ontario County Highway Supply bids, including the Livingston County Highway Supply bids, approval of the fee schedule for different fees that the town charges for different activities. So that was the organizational meeting. Reports, not a whole lot, excuse me. Town clerk, tax collector, been busy collecting taxes and sending out bills and receipts. Code enforcement included the handout from Joe, maybe from Steve. It was December. Somebody sent it out with a list of building permits issued and violations on the back. What happened to the was there a short-term rental?
On the back.
Oh, yeah, short-term rental summary is on the back of the first page. He's just going to kind of keep us informed of how we stand from a town standpoint. Any questions for Joe? He's here, Joe Miller. And then, let's see, Highway Department. Highway had done a few salt runs, mostly during freezing rain incidents. They had some tree cleanups from the windstorm during that cold snap. They've been doing truck maintenance. They're going to sell a 2013 large truck. Anybody interested in it? It's for sale. And they're going to test out a new snowplow blade system. Instead of having a single solid blade, it's going to be sections. And it's going to be able to move up and down. So supposedly it will take the contour of the road. One other town, I believe, town of Canandaigua is using them or is testing them. And they've gotten good reports. So our highway guy is going to order one, put it on a truck and see how it works for our town. Not all that expensive. I didn't write down the expense, but not all that expensive. And as far as maintenance, each one of those sections can be maintained independently. So sound like maybe an improvement in technology for our roads.
You're also able to use less salt because they clear the roads more efficiently.
Good. Yep. So he was kind of excited about that. Honey Eye Lake Watershed Task Force, nothing to report. Except everyone's kind of upset that the lake hasn't frozen yet, so they can't go ice fishing. The assessor, our assessor Lisa Bennett is done at the end of this month. She's retiring. Her replacement is Holly Schwingle. She's not certified as an assessor, but she's in training. And so she's going to pretty much take over as of February 1st. Water operation, everything is going on. Water district operation, everything's going fine there.
We're gonna reassess this year.
Yes, townwide reassessment in 2023. Unfinished business. At the time of the meeting, the HVAC for the town hall was 98% complete. I think it's complete now. They've got heat in this room. You probably noticed that. Haven't had it forever since this room's been built, but it's much more comfortable in here tonight than it's been in the past. Other than that, the new business were all beginning of the year resolutions, contracts with Williamson Law, book for some of the software, payroll software, dog control contract with the county. Going to propose a new law for the town be a public hearing at the February meeting. That they want to enact a law where they're going to give first responders and volunteer first responders tax exemption up to some based on years of service, and I'm not sure how they're going to calculate it, but so they're going to have a public hearing on that at the February town board meeting, which is the second Monday in February. To see where that goes. Steve Smith, CEO, he's gone as of the first of the year. They had a resolution to extend an appreciation to him. And that was pretty much it. Any questions on the town meeting? All right. County Planning Board, Steve Grote.
Attended the planning board meeting on January.
Got your
January.
mic on, Steve? Your mic for the recording. Yes, to be on.
How'd you know it wasn't on?
The light's not on, it still isn't on.
I thought I'd get rid of it.
No, it's still not on.
That's why he doesn't have internet.
The thing is, right, I got an email finally. The lights are
Can you
on.
get that on?
Yeah, that's all. It's reading a number here.
Doesn't look like the little light's on.
Hmm.
Should look like that.
Move yours over. Just what is on?
Yeah, it's on top.
It's a dim.
Is it on?
It is on.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, Steve.
It's all right. Oh, we had our meeting January 11th. Nothing to report at this time, but Linda at the end of the meeting, she did give a 1 hour presentation. Linda Phillips of staff, county planning staff, gave an overview of this New York State Climate Action Council scoping plan. And obviously that has to do with greenhouse gas emissions and the new ways they hope to be doing things going forward, and related challenges is how we might meet some of these different programs within the county here. So it was a good overview. So I have none of the referrals from the various municipalities, nothing of interest for the board.
Okay, thank you. Just along that line, that training that he was talking about, if you get the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning handout, monthly report newsletter, they have listed that as well as a few other courses available. Some of them are kind of far removed from us, but they're available for training, you know, and you have an interest in some of those topics. Sign up. I don't know if they're webinars or they're just, whether you just sign up for them, but you look for the newsletter, or you can sign up for that newsletter and get it to your own email. So you can read it.
Yeah.
And
I got it. She's been
get some
sending
training
this.
that way.
Yeah,
Thank
and I, at the end of the presentation, I raised my hands, well, geez, I think we ought to be entitled to a little training here, credit, and so she acquiesced and gave us all an hour
So you
training.
got a 1 hour training, you're ahead of the rest of us then, Steve.
Everybody.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions for Steve Grote? By the way, Steve signed up for another year as being our representative to the Ontario County Planning Board. Zoning Board, we didn't get any notes or anything, so I know they're involved in some litigation, and I understand they have a couple of variance requests. Along that line, I talked with Joe this past week, and he raised the point that the way that we at Planning Board have been operating since I've been on this, since before when Steve was here. If someone came to us with an application and it did not fit regulate the requirements, the zoning requirements, you know, we have this informal sketch plan review meeting. I usually have Paul or somebody come along and we look it over. And if there's an obvious point where they don't meet the zoning requirement, we have pointed that out to them and referred them to go with a code enforcement officer who would then generate an appeal for a variance. And then they would go or not go, depending on what they wanted to do. They would get the variance. They would then come back to us. We would accept their paperwork and start the review process. And we would have that variance that had been granted already done. Well, Joe brought up a point, I'm not sure where, maybe some of his training is, but his point was that the zoning board doesn't really have anything to, the applicant doesn't have anything to appeal. Just word of mouth, okay? And I looked in the code and the word of mouth does not represent an appeal, a denial. So his proposal was that we change our process. That we would accept those applications, even if there is a known violation of the zoning or site plan or subdivision regulations. We would open a preliminary review, we would review it, we would note anything that did not meet requirements or regulations. We would then send them a letter saying, we're denying your application. So we would deny the application. Don't table it. We have to deny it so that they'll have something to take then to the zoning board of appeals. So we're going to change the process. We're going to do that. So in the future, when you get your packets and you see an application and you say, wait, this is, it's intentional. And so we're going to change our process so that we do that. And this is just really part of being correct in our procedures and our processes. So we're going to have many, because we get probably 50% of the applications we go over require variances. So we're going to have more of those coming through. That's just an FYI for your information. Okay, any comments about that?
Yeah,
Questions for Joe?
we did originally used to do it that way years ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but then at one point we had a code enforcement officer who was eager to review the applications, and he thought that if it didn't meet the requirement, that it was good to go to ZBA, which he did on several, and he took the time to review basically all the applications for us at one point. But when I initially started, every single one did come to the planning board.
So that's a good point. That's a good point, because the application can actually be submitted to the planning board or to the code enforcement office. So maybe that's what we should do. Refer them to the application be submitted to.
That was the streamlined version.
And that would
we
streamline
tried at one
things.
Point. Does that coincide with your understanding of the process?
Yes,
Oh, would you like to do that?
we absolutely should.
Yeah,
Because
how about
then
that?
Hey, that's even easier.
It'll eliminate another month of waiting.
Right,
Bingo.
that was the,
That was why we
And
did
we're
that.
doing it, and we're doing it correctly according
Yep.
to the law.
Exactly. I don't know how the process wound up the way it is, and I think it was just kind of a fell in between, but that is exactly what we did. And I think this was when Bob Best
when
was
Bob
our,
was here.
yeah. And it did work well. It saved a lot of time for applicants.
So for me or anyone here that happens to be sitting in the chair there, if we get an application and we see a variance, we should send it right over to code enforcement officer. And if they do submit them directly to you, all the better.
Right, and I can deny the application, and then they have a reason to appeal.
And then they can appeal, then the paperwork can come to us and we'll open it as if it's our first time looking at it. Is that correct?
So now
Better yet.
when we initially did that process, every application that came in started with code
We
enforcement.
could do that.
If you're
If I
willing to
get
do
one.
that, we don't want to overload the new guy with a lot of work, but
No, it should be, it's just we're gonna have to change forms and make sure the website says, because I know the form now says planning board or buildings. department.
Well, actually, the application says planning board application. On the back, however, it says it's CEO signed off, or received it and accepts it. So,
I don't think it really matters what the application says, just has to go to you right there.
okay, that's better yet.
And you're totally on board with that. Outstanding. I think that's a great way to go.
I'm gonna write this in big letters on my notes. All applications to CEO first.
So you don't have to meet with anyone.
Even
Right, I won't meet with them. Right, I'll avoid that sketch plan conference.
so it wouldn't be applications.
It will be applications.
Well, I'm not sure getting rid of that because I actually like that.
Yeah, the new code enforcement officer, a lot of times has to come up to speed a little bit. Some of
Right.
these applications are fairly involved. And if they can't give them a snap decision, it is nice to have the Thursday night review with the chairman if people need it. And that would be a great thing to keep open, I think, if you're both willing.
Okay. That's fine.
Under the instructions on the application here,
Yeah.
both 1 and 5 say code enforcement officer or the planning board.
Yeah.
So it looks like our instructions don't need to be updated.
Right,
Our-
it already has the both of them, yeah.
I think we tried really hard to get the process right once, but you know,
This
things
was the
change.
part of that result, okay.
It was the result of the current few litigations that are going on. And it was a request by the town lawyer, Sheila,
Just for us to make sure we're following that proper procedure.
and this procedure in particular.
Okay,
Because then
yeah,
the current ones that are going on, that part of this was.
okay,
So on our end.
all right. So see some small changes going forward here. So that's the code enforcement. Anything else for CEO? All right, let's move into old business. First, old business is a site plan application for Brian and Margie Shaw, who are here, and Scott Harder is the engineer. I gave you in the packet. I think I just gave you a copy of the front of the application, just to remind you. And we met with the Shaws by Zoom, and Scott was here a few months ago. There were some issues on the map that needed to be adjusted. And I'm going to comment here. One of the parts, one of the things we did was we first thing we did we did what's called the re-subdivision, where we applied to have the two adjoining properties combined into a single property. And that would then give them road frontage on County Road 37. So we approved that. We sit here today, January 23rd, and the county still hasn't done that. Lisa has prodded our assessor has prodded the county person, and he's just not moving on it. So what I'm going to propose is that since that is an integral part of us approving the site plan, is that perhaps if we get through everything else and we approve it, we could possibly approve it and amend it that no building permits would be issued until that subdivision, that re-subdivision, meaning the combining the two properties is complete. And a conditional approval. That's what I'm kind of aiming at, if that makes sense to people. But if you look at the map, and Scott's given us great maps again.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I got two maps. Is there just one?
Maybe one's an old one and one's a new one.
They both came in my bag.
Oh, they both came in your, then it's probably an extra one. If they both came, sure.
Perhaps the applicants. We're all done.
If you want one, Brian?
When we're all done.
Oh, he can take it right now.
Yeah.
So what we had looked at before was the placement of the septic system for the new proposed residence. I believe he had 70 feet or something like that, or maybe it was unspecified.
No,
But
yeah, well, I think we measured somewhere around 70.
yeah, I think so. You pushed it to 104. So that was the first issue that we talked about. What was the second issue?
Do you know where the well was?
Okay, we wanted the location of the well, proposed well, and he's put that on here. It's just to the east of where the existing pond is. And I think everything else met the regulations. You recall that the driveway, they did a switchback so that they would not exceed the 15% grade, which is required by our code. And the earlier map showed that the width of the driveway was a minimum of 12 feet in every area. And then for their sake, they designated some pullover areas, which made it even wider. So those were the issues that we had addressed when we went through the application earlier. So you can see. So again, the proposal is that eventually the property, the structures, at least the residents on Canadice Lake Road will be demolished, but that's not dependent upon the site plan is not dependent upon that. So basically they'll have that and then they'll have the entrance will be on County Road 37. So when it comes to that point, Joe, I don't know how you have, if you have two addresses for the same tax map number or how you handle that. Because this is all going to be a single tax map number
I'm not sure.
with, and it may not, if the fire access, emergency access is off 37, there's going to need to be an address. So that's something that will have to be done at the time that they, I assume, when they apply for a building permit or before they get final C of O or something, but that's all in your hands.
And utilities will bring utilities out. That's just kind of this.
Okay, so, yeah, so you know all that stuff. So that's just something I wanted to point out, and we've talked about that before. So are there any other questions or comments or issues regarding this final site plan map?
I think we mentioned it last time that we got confirmation back from Linda Phillips that it doesn't have to be referred.
Yes.
Did not have to be referred.
Yep, I have that in writing. I spoke with her. And she said her comments were that because it's a single family residence. And there had been no variances needed for this application, they would not review it. So did not require, I asked her to take a look at it. Scott kind of wanted me to, but she said, no, we don't do that. So any other comments or questions or?
I do. Just the proposed well, I don't see anything indicating, is it just this general area where the proposed well is going? I don't see a mark like a spot on, we're gonna drill here. Is it just this general area?
Did I show?
You want to see one of these?
Not show a mark on there?
I don't see one, or I might be missing it because the old pond is there and maybe I don't see your mark.
No, there should be a designated symbol there that evidently did print.
Yeah,
So you're
that's what
correct.
I'm looking for.
So we can put that on the file.
Great. And then we need to keep the driveway 12 foot wide, correct?
Right.
Is there any place on the map that indicates the width, or are we just gonna do this by scale?
On the first set of plans, which we gave you at the time we did the review,
Oh, they showed it?
they showed, he showed everything. He gave us, and if you want to see it,
Oh, will it just wind up on the final?
That will be.
that would be attached to the final. Yeah.
Okay, that was my only concern.
It was a whole
Yeah,
set of
Big
them.
part of this project was making the fact.
Yep. I recall. I just heard Ted say, it had to be 12 and I'm not seeing it on here. So I just wanted to make
Yep.
sure we had it.
It's on one of these maps.
Because we
here.
could have put it in the application verbally if we needed to, as long as there's just some way to show that it's
Yep.
supposed to be
It's on
12.
there, so that will be part of when. No, so right now, the only thing we've identified is a spot for the well.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's all I had. I like it. Nice application.
It is very well done.
When's the timeline here? When do we expect them to start? Bring us
I
or?
think we'd like to do it this summer. Right.
We're talking to builders and site contractors. So we're ready to start this summer.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I wanted to point out is that the tax map number was specified was incorrect.
Oh.
180-1-24.1 is on the applications and it's 24.000. That's for the larger two properties, I think. So the new the assessor has that information, so she's got the right tax map number, and Scott put the new number
I put the new number on there.
on the map,
On the re-subdivision.
on the re-subdivision, yes, right here. The re-subdivision form that we'd already
Mhm.
approved, so it's just a matter of, we had a 0.1 there and it should have been a
Right.
0.
Yeah.
So that'll all be taken care of through our assessor in the county when they do the actual re-subdivision. Okay. Excuse me, anything else? I
I
guess,
mentioned to you, Ted, that I'd like to review the driveway alignment with your code enforcement officer, who I assume is also the fire marshal.
he's everything, the fire marshal, building inspector, building permit issuer, code enforcer, he's a,
To make sure that we're meeting the fire code, that you're.
pardon?
Just yeah, we can do that offline.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was gonna, so I guess at this point, I would ask for a motion to grant final approval of the site plan on the condition that the re-subdivision, that is the combining the two parcels, is complete.
I'll make a motion.
And the updated maps showing the actual well location.
To make a motion. I'll second it.
Okay. Any other questions, information, anything from you folks? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. So I will let you, I'm gonna continue to push the county to get that re-subdivision done. Perhaps, at your leisure, or maybe once that's done, you might want to send us the new maps.
We'll also be sending our maps, as I indicated by note on the plan. We'll send them to the New York State Health Department for approval for waste those.
Right.
They are an agency. We have to contact and get their approval. I'm happy to document all of this. Responses I've done.
Yeah, it's just we have it for information. I mean, that's outside of our purview really, but it's information on what you're going to be doing.
Do you need their approval? Because when I.
Doing
did
with
it,
the site.
I found, as long as I had an engineered drawing. The county doesn't have health insurance. They didn't have to go to the state. It was approved by the-
Depends on the type of system being proposed. If it's an alternate system, which is what we are proposing, that have to be involved. Because you're right, Ontario County doesn't have its own. County does, for example. So it kind of depends on what the soils produce and the result and what the system is. We found that the soils were. What you're talking about in your code, with respect to the 80-foot separation, what you see there, the
Yep.
soils hold water. They're kind of high there to be perfectly honest. So we need to bring some other fill material to actually foil work with. And that's an alternate system, which triggers health department review.
Our town board does act as the health department.
Right.
And submitting that documentation, it goes right into the applicant's file and stays here. It's
Yep.
kind of a nice thing for the future. If we lose
Yeah.
track of something, we can go to the town and look at the file, it's your file. So, yeah,
Yep.
more information better and that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you folks are welcome to stick around or welcome to leave, and thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone, do you want any of these maps back?
No, you can have them, maybe wallpaper the.
Well, I think they'll end up in, many of them in the recycle bin, but they've served their purpose, and thanks so much for your cooperation.
Okay.
So location of the well. And location of the well, and what was the other thing?
I'm glad I asked about that. I was curious.
Oh, yes.
Yes, that was like showing.
What was it, the well, and what was the other thing?
The county approving
Oh, yeah.
the
I got that.
re-subdivision.
Yeah, I got that.
And the 12-foot for the driveway, right? You wanted to see that on the map?
Well, it's already on, it's on the.
Oh, it is?
It's on the, it's for a sheet that he gave us way back when, and that's unchanged, but that shows the driveway contour, slope, width, and I think the turnaround.
Engineer.
The turn-
Driveway to get in.
Well, he did, yeah.
That's, I just didn't, he said it, and I didn't see it on the map, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because it was several weeks ago that we did the preliminary review. Last,
Location of the well, was the other.
Right, yeah, I got that.
So that's a map update, and then the other is the county approval. And at that point, when we get that county approval, I'll notify you. And then whenever they want to apply for building permits, you'll know that the site plan has been approved. Okay? Thank you. All right, next item is a subdivision for J. Kratzley LLC. Jim Kratzley is in the back. Jim was here. Let's see. Actually submitted the application way back in July. It's taken a while. We reviewed his application and did the seeker. And approved the preliminary approval, and we determined no negative impact on the environment. That was in September. And we then stopped the process and sent Jim off to get a survey map. Part of the process involved a variance from the ZBA, and they granted the variance. And so I included in your packet a copy of a portion of the map. Okay, I have the full map here if somebody wants to see it. The surveyor actually did a lot of additional, he put a lot of additional names, et cetera, and Jim has additional maps, which would anyone like to see a larger one? Got a couple of them here. We're gonna stamp and thanks. Jim. Yeah, we should have at least 2 papers in there. You can share them over there.
But to refresh my memory, when we did it, was just a simple subdivision.
It was, the problem was that it was a 0.62 acre lot. And so they, the minimum lot size is 1/2 acres, so they needed approval, he needed approval. And there were a couple of side setback variances as well.
Right.
Okay, so they've all been they were all granted. They were all granted,
As
so
far as we're concerned, we're just.
we're just approving the final map. You want to see this?
I have one question on this.
Okay, do you want to see this?
Yeah.
It's sanitary sewer that's going.
Okay, so
No, please.
first question is Birch. Yes.
Well, the sewer line for the parcel to the west crosses the parcel to the east.
Yes,
Will that be a problem for the people in the future?
I don't know.
I mean,
Joe,
there's
is
not
that-
an
do you know
easement.
if that's a sewer lines typically cross properties going to another residence?
Fortunately, in our district, well, in this district particularly, yes.
They're allowed.
It is.
Yeah.
It wasn't normal.
That's what I recall some of the Steve Smith telling us too.
Okay,
It was a normal that
so as far
sewer lines and water lines would go across.
to put in their easement that would have,
Right.
Well, but the new line we're drawing
right,
the sewer line, so it may have been a practice in the past, but that doesn't mean that it's current practice. And wouldn't that, and when we're reviewing the seeker, wouldn't that be one of the questions, isn't it? Does it impact existing wastewater infrastructure? Isn't that one of the? seeker
One of the
questions?
questions on the seeker about wastewater.
Does it need permit approval or something?
The
Well,
question is, does it impact existing?
there's a proposed, let's see, will a proposed action connect to existing wastewater utilities? And we said, yes, that's connect to existing
Okay,
wastewater
so not
utilities.
impact.
So it doesn't say impact. And so the answer was, yeah, it's connecting up to what's already there. I think we went through, I'm not sure if we went through that, but that's a good point. So, okay, and you had something else?
is the sewer owned by the homeowner to the property line? Or is it owned by the district? I just see it as being down the road. A problem for a future owner.
So both water lines, which I don't see the water lines drawn on this map, own by Water Valve. Both water lines and sewer lines after the main are the property owner's responsibility to maintain. So if there's a leak, it is they need to maintain it. So there would need to be some sort of easement. I don't know if that's something that we need to require as part of the planning board. I don't know how that process works, but the house would need some sort of easement over sanitary sewer and any water lines in order to be able to maintain them in the future.
That has to be written into the deed. He's gonna need to have a new deed for both properties, and that should show up in the deed of the property.
Well, not if no one requires it.
Well, I haven't read
It's the
anything. in-
applicant creating a condition, he owns the property and he wants to do this, I don't know that it's for us to say that he can't.
No, their lawyers should pick up on that.
Right,
Yeah, I mean, obviously it could be a potential problem for a sale.
For a sale.
Someone has to
right.
dig up, the neighbor's sewer line to correct something, or somebody wants to build there, but.
That's not our
we're
problem.
moving-
Right,
yeah,
it's
we're
out.
moving the lot lines.
Right, we're moving the lot lines.
Because the applicant here is saying, do this, so.
Right.
Problem is, buyer beware.
It's a good point. It's a good point, though.
It is.
And to keep those things in mind and we go forward to make sure the applicants understand that the responsibility that they're taking on. So those were the two. Any other questions on the map?
I'm just looking at the one provided.
Yep, okay,
And on the southeast corner, there's I think it's labeled a frame carport.
that's on someone else's property.
Oh, I'm just
Right.
Oh,
wait.
Crossing.
Oh, wait,
following the yellow line down there. To go through it,
yep.
I just wanted.
Frame
Carport. I didn't know if it shows different on this big one, on the, on gas one.
This one here.
Right, that's,
If you look at it.
you see what we're talking about?
Yeah, but I don't really care about.
No, it's a car, no, it's a carport.
Okay.
It's a frame carport down
Yeah,
here.
neighbors kinda like put that up years ago. I mean, by
And they would.
seventies or so.
Yeah. So you mentioned-
And they just built it onto your property?
Yeah, that's it, right.
I don't care, I'm easy to go on.
Well, it's a good point, So it's pre-existing.
That's not the line that we're creating.
We're not moving that part of the, yeah, we're,
I think that carport's ready to fall over anyway, so. Maybe next
Well-
time they'll get it right.
well,
Is that bigger map still out? Or
Yeah.
Is that the exact same as what we?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
yeah, I just tried to shrink it to fit there.
I also don't see any easement, like there would be an easement over the main sanitary sewer, there would be an easement over this utility line. Wouldn't there be some sort of easement over this Sweet Pea Lane? Shouldn't
necessarily show up in the survey.
shouldn't all those be marked on a
Those-
survey?
Those show up in
Pretty
the,
much, I think.
in the deed.
Right away, I should put up a toll booth, shouldn't I?
well,
Well, I would assume there's an easement where these lots would get access. Most surveys that
Yeah,
I've
we
seen
have.
in the past have easements.
easements marked out.
Isn't that what the dotted line going right down through the whole thing is?
I
I think that's the utility.
think that's the utility.
So to speak out this matter, we're actually the town lawyers. For the house on the corner, and there was no proper, what do you call it, right of way. Written, so they actually had to take it to the county, the lawyer did, to be able to find where the lines, and it is 35 feet from east property lines. So if you look, it says 35 feet.
Yep, it's 35 feet back to that dotted
And
line.
I believe Steve is right, that the dotted line would be where that stops.
Yeah, that whole section is.
Okay, so that whole section is.
Yeah,
But you're correct, Caitlin, like I'm looking at another map and it has an easement showing.
Confusing because there's a utility pole on it. It makes me
Yeah.
think it might be a utility pole. The dotted line.
Okay, so that is the easement. It looks like the water line, the sanitary sewer and the road
And
are
they-
all within the easement.
Right.
But you're right, but should normally surveyor would normally put. easements.
You would normally put an easement on a survey map and
Survey map.
we have we've seen those where the easement shows up.
But I'm not.
If you
sure
read
they
through
call it-
our, pardon?
I said, I don't think they were calling it.
Yeah, it usually has
Regular.
easement and then it has a page and library number where you can find the exact.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Who
right.
has the easement. So that's usually all on a survey
And-
map.
And if you look at our code requirement, what shows up on a survey map, it doesn't specify easements.
It doesn't.
No, if you look on the subdivision section 108. I don't know the section, but chapter 108, it doesn't say anything about easements showing up on that final map. Maybe it should, but it doesn't today.
Okay.
It becomes a issue for the landowner. Maybe it
Oh,
takes
yeah,
some education.
I think so too, but it's, again, if we're trying to do things as best we can,
We can-
we're
not really
going by the
good,
code as our guide.
but There's a planning board. We're gonna be educated to make those kind of legal decisions.
And we're approving the subdivision itself into the properties. These other things are all considerations, but
I'll admit, I like to see them. I think the problem here is a lot of things are fight and not necessarily exactly the way they should. Like cardboard step on fine,
okay. And anything else? Okay, I guess I would entertain a motion to grant final approval of the subdivision based on the final survey map. Steve Engar, is there a second?
Second.
White, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm gonna stamp and sign them right now, Jim, and you can take them with you. We'll keep one of the paper copies in your folder here. Other two paper and Mylar, you take over to the county clerk's office, go up onto the third floor, the real property office first. They do something and then they send you downstairs to the clerk and they take money, so. So give me a minute here. I will sign these as approved.
When they ask you the total, you just roll that in there, hold on to.
Forget to block the sales tax.
Oops, upside down. Sorry about this.
They're looking to get a variance to build. Well, they couldn't, they had nowhere to enter. To get their setback. Right. So where do we start from? So they got a survey, and the survey specifically calls out. The right of way. Yep. On the survey. Right. I had to go to the county to actually get the numbers.
Sure. Interesting. But it looks like it's all gonna work out. Everybody's. We'll see.
That one. Okay, Jim, you're all set. You're done with us, and so good luck to you. You can put that on. There you go. We're keeping this one in the file. All right. Okay, back to the agenda. Third item was a subdivision for Gabe Costanza. Gabe made it. Hi, this is Gabe. He was with us several weeks ago. In the pack or on the table tonight, I gave you just a copy of the front sheet, so it would remind you. And this is the final survey map. We have very large ones again, if you would like to see the very large ones. Basically, they owned 2 properties. They wanted to sell off about approximately 3 acres. It's this 3 acres in the middle here. Approximately 3 acres here. And then this remainder, this was all one property. The remainder is being joined to their existing home. And down here it says that property lines to be removed. You know, normally we see, annexed, but this surveyor said the property lines to be removed. So this whole thing is going to be annexed. Thank you. Give one over there to them if you would.
The ones to the east.
Right. Those 2 dashed, which are now dashed lines. Did you get a large map, guys?
I think.
You okay? So if you look at the map, all the distances were there. Again, they required a variance from the zoning board because the frontage of the property that's being subdivided is only 225.74 road frontage. They went to the zoning board of appeals and got a variance because the regulation is a minimum of 250. So a variance was granted for that road frontage, allowing this approximately 3.375 acres to be a brand new lot. Well, it's what remains of the existing lot, and the remainder of it to be annexed to their existing home. So we needed the map. Really, all they had to do was draw the lines because we're not putting any new buildings. Buildings are already there. And no utilities. There's nothing back here on this property on the backside except some trees and some wet spots, I think you said, right? There's some, but there's nothing back there. There are no utilities, no structures.
Did we did get the formal letter from the zoning board, or was that? before?
We did not, that was before.
Before we.
Yeah. It was a,
It was a
we
while
got it
ago.
because it was in their minutes.
Yeah.
That they had approved it.
I drive to the first meeting.
You may have, actually. If you brought it, I probably copied it.
I was just curious.
Yeah, we did get,
We have a new-
so we're going to try to improve that process as well, where any variances that are granted are written notification to the applicant as well as to us, the planning board. So we'll know what was actually approved by them. And we got the approval note from them. Any questions? Well, yeah, any questions on this final survey map?
I understand that it's the subdivision is back here, but on other maps, we've required information like where the septic is and where the well is, where the driveway is. I just don't see any of that information on this map.
Okay, there's a well there, tiny thing.
Yeah,
I mean-
probably if I looked at the bigger one.
Why don't you look at the larger one and see?
There's a well, but
I don't think I know where it's at.
Yeah,
So there's a well on this one, but. I just know that, the county does upload all of this information, so I don't know whose responsibility is to make it sure these maps are complete, but.
well, the way I look at it, we're approving the division of the land. I don't, so you're suggesting we should have a well and septic noted on this?
I mean, I don't think it's gonna affect the moving of the lines, but it seems like there should be complete information, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
It's a good point. Any other inputs?
Septic things are good. Like sometimes if the septic was put in before. Something like this was created, you're not gonna know where it is, even in the property files.
Mhm.
So the surveyor didn't have access to any information on the location of the.
Well, but what about like the driveway? That's not listed at all.
For the two-story frame house or the.
Yeah, for the two.
That's the existing, this is the existing property where they actually lived, is the frame barn and the two-story frame.
Yeah, I just don't see a driveway at all.
Where's the gravel? Is that,
That's for the one-story frame,
That's for the other property, yeah.
the property to the south.
Over there now. This is their house.
I don't know, if it doesn't show it on this one.
This the property that it's going? Is that all this?
Right.
This is making.
Yeah.
All this is joining this. This solid line is the new property.
What's the old property?
Old property was straight across, all this belonged to them. I've got some nice colored, I got some nice colored maps here to show you that.
So it was originally like this.
Okay, they own.
This is what it looks like afterwards.
Right.
This is their home.
Yeah.
And it looked,
But they own
oh,
all that.
yeah, they own all that now. Where's the other map? The other colors. There was a color one that showed what it looked like before. Can't find, oh, here it is. So that's what it looked like before, this property.
Okay.
Okay, and this is what it looks like now.
Yeah.
So the question on the floor here is about the map. Should there be utilities, well, and septic shown on the existing home lot to which the newly divided property is being joined? That's the question, or it's a discussion point at this time.
Caitlin's correct.
Pardon?
I think Caitlin is correct. Those things should be on the map. Have them on the map. I think we also have the power to waive those things. If we so choose.
I know we have the power to waive them. I don't know if it's I assume it is required.
It's probably required.
Yeah, obviously. Well, we can waive, oh, yeah. There you go. Give me a minute here. Okay, preliminary plot. Parcel.
Sure.
Surveyor calls it re-subdivision.
I think if.
Go ahead.
Steve and I had just been going back and forth, a little exchanging, ideas, and as he brought up, we might have some latitude. Again, Caitlin is correct on what she's noting here, but again, what we're subdividing, is this total. It's this piece in the back where it shows absolutely nothing on there, and just moving it over to the other lot here. To me, that's kind of negates, if in fact we were looking at the front piece trying to subdivide it, and we don't show a septic and things of that nature. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, yes, it's a technicality and yes, probably on there, but
Are we
think perhaps we have some
subdividing or
latitude.
re-subdividing?
We're subdividing.
So, because the surveyor says it's a subdivision, re-subdivision.
The original property was, before the original subdivision, what it says is Luke and Elizabeth Britton. That was all part of one property. That's probably why you call that a re-subdivision. If you found that on old property tax.
Yeah, this is what we typically do, right? The subdivided property is to be annexed to the tax map number. We don't call that a re-subdivision, so I'm surprised he had it on. Here. You know, the re-subdivision is if you have two existing tax map numbers and you're going to combine them into a single, which is not what we're doing here.
No, I just noted.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you notice, did you see that? He put a, so you think it may be a carryover. Does say the map should show the location of existing sewers, water mains, culverts and drains. Streets. Proposed water lines and. In order for us to waive something, I think we have to know what we're waiving. So,
It used to be that we just required the map to show all improvements.
okay,
So that included things like driveways and wells and stuff, and things of that nature. And, you know, Caitlin's right, you know, when somebody's moving a lot line, and it doesn't show on the map, we don't truly know what's there. And Steve said we can take a guess, there's nothing going on back there. But we really don't know. It's not on the map. You know, a little bit of a leap to wait something, but I think it's probably been up before.
Ooh. Interesting. Supposed to show easements.
Well, give me a list of things that the surveyor needs to add to it. I can go back to.
Yeah.
All I gotta do is look at my original maps I gave, so I had that stuff on there.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, it did.
We could
I'm
do a
pretty sure.
conditional on it then.
Yeah.
For sure, I could go back and look, but.
So there's nothing near where these lines are being drawn, right? There's
No,
no
it's just
driveways,
Oh,
no
it's just woods,
buildings,
yeah.
this was.
So
We could do a conditional approval if the things that we're missing be put on this map.
driveway, location of the well and the septic for the existing residents on this property.
I mean, as long as Canandaigua not gonna send me back here. I go there.
Well, what we would say is we would grant conditional approval, condition upon you getting back to us with the updated map. And I could just do that. They generally empower me to then sign it. You don't have to wait for another meeting.
Right.
Just say contours are required.
Yep, usually a little time for it, there's trees to the corner.
Okay, so,
It's flat property or?
yeah.
Not that flat.
Where that is,
Well, there's some.
where that is, well, okay. So we want to see the driveway, the well, septic. Do you want contours? I mean, he can get them. He's got,
We've got a culvert, does it need that?
Did it show on the map that you have before?
driveway, well and septic. And we don't know he already said they don't know the location of the septic on the remaining, the 3.7, so we're willing to go with that, right? Because, and Joe also said.
Yeah.
They don't often on these old properties, they don't know where those things are. So those are the three things: driveway, well and septic for the 2-story frame on that property.
would be willing to, for other conditional approval motion for that. The rest of them.
All right. I guess I would entertain a motion to grant final approval conditioned upon Mr. Costanza submitting an updated map, which includes these three things. And then he would be done.
You don't think that'll get probably have that put on there? You already did that, right?
I'm sure it'll charge me a little bit more.
Well, he should have had that on there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised it's not on there. And then.
And what about contours?
The contours and the verbiage of the annex.
Yeah,
Opposed to resub.
yeah, right. So instead of a re-subdivision, it's an annexation. So you want me to just show you what they normally do? I'll show you on this.
Yeah, sure, but I think if you, Scott should know.
Yeah, generally what they do is they do something like this. And they say to be annexed to this tax map number. They write it right on there. So,
Plead your case with him.
pardon?
I told him, plead his case with the survey.
Well, these things should have been. on there.
Could have been on there.
Okay, so we got that driveway, well, septic. And this verbiage about to be annexed to, yes, Steve.
Do you
Grow-
just want to put in a little, a timeline on this, or is it inherent within the process?
No, there's no timeline on it. It's just whenever, he
You
wants.
want to write on that map?
I will. Okay. This is, generally they put, something like. He's got this one for an area. Generally, they write lot 2. Lot 1, and here they say. To be annexed. To tax map number. Whichever one that is. And so then we need the location. Well. Septic. And driveway. That's your motion, right?
That is my motion.
Is there a second?
Wait a second.
Birch, any other comments? All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Okay. And then the last thing is, does Mr. Costanza have to come back to planning board, or will it be okay if I sign it once, if he gets it, so we don't, I don't know the timing, but if rather than delay initially, intentionally didn't delay him another month. Okay. Got it? Questions for us?
As long as you wrote it on there, I'm good.
Okay, we'll give you your maps back.
Scan that and send it to.
Yeah,
And, hopefully that'll be no problem.
yeah. Let's see, is this one? That's. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah.
And when you get it, just give us a call or the email, and we can get together and do that. Because these, again, these will have to be recorded in the county clerk once I sign them. And I just wrote up here and then to be annexed to. Okay,
All right.
thank you. And then remove that comment that says re-subdivision on the map. I didn't write that down, it's because that's kind of
Yeah,
misleading, isn't it?
yeah,
Okay.
except for it refers to a previous.
Yeah,
So, that's a-
it's not a big deal, but if you can clean it up, we should, right?
I just gotta remember, remove subdivision, re-subdivision.
Right. Okay. That takes care of that. All right, new business. We were asked to submit a proposal for the violations on the short-term rental regulation. I discovered after it's been passed and enacted, we didn't really put in a section for penalties. So to be consistent, good night.
Right.
Does anyone need a copy of this? Did anyone look at it from last time and note any changes or improvements? You guys want copies or? I made copies for everyone because I didn't know whether you'd have one or not. So again, what Birch did was he just, looked at other sections of the code. Looked at what penalties were typically used. Copied it and modified it, and he put in a couple of proposals. And, the town board would have to, as part of their acceptance of this and submitting it, they'd have to define what the actual fine amounts are. He put in some amounts. I don't know if those were carried over.
Actually, they
From
were
another-
carried over.
They were carried over.
And I think it was the waste disposal.
Yeah,
Regulation.
Yeah, one of the other regulations.
I don't know if anyone's ever been thrown in jail for it. Days.
But at least it would be, an amendment to the code. Spelling out what the penalties are so that code enforcement officer would have some leverage to something to enforce.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything that I would change that I would
Yeah.
improve personally.
The only thing, and I think Steve brought it up, that each day is a separate violation, so you have to.
Right, each
I don't know how
offense.
that works. They have to.
They have to resubmit the violation. To a new ticket.
Every day
Yeah, for each,
for each
Time.
offense.
for each time you wanna, it's coming for that charge, there has
Oh,
to be a new accusatory instrument for each one.
I'm
So that's
assuming,
normally an appearance time.
I'm assuming the lawyer. Anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen this or not, Joe, the proposal. I just handed it out tonight. I didn't put it in the packet. So,
Some of this stuff though doesn't look familiar from our code, all this was picked from our stuff or from. other
yeah,
sections?
it's from,
No, it
Oh.
was picked from I might have added. Like D or something like that, but
Okay.
B. I don't know if I might have added A and E or something like that, but the actual violation stuff.
Okay.
Is right from the code book.
So
Under
B and
waste-
C are two separate.
yes,
entities.
right, two separate.
Suggestion.
Well, it's.
Well,
this
if
is how
the
code
B is
should
if
be
it's
written.
conviction, right?
One has $100 fine, the other one has $250.
Right.
So I thought it'd be two separate.
The B is criminal.
B is
C
criminal, the other
is-
is civil. Yeah, so there's both a criminal and a civil aspect.
And I think maybe the civil you can put against the tax, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's essentially what happens in the end if they don't pay it.
The criminal, you can't.
It's a judgment, you send a judgment up to the county clerk, they file it, the person never goes to sell their property or something, it's collected from the proceeds.
Yeah.
So B and C are one. Proposal. B and C.
It's the full.
This
term.
full thing would be added.
My only comment would be the potential addition of some language that says per property. Because we could have somebody that owns multiple short-term rental properties within the town. And if we don't
Oh.
specify per property, they can only, because it always says any person. I actually ran into this when I worked for the town of Canandaigua. We needed to file fines against somebody, and it was a large subdivision. And it was a lot of properties, but and this is almost exactly how the code was written. Because it did not say per property, it says per person. That
Mm.
they were only fined a lesser amount. So that just occurred to me as I was rereading.
Oh. So do you know how they amended it or what it would, what it should read?
I don't believe it was amended.
Oh,
So. Maybe where it says each day such violation shall continue per property.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we really have to worry about it. If they do have multiple properties. They're not gonna apply for a permit for any of them. They're gonna Go after 'em or something.
Yeah.
And $250. Plus the imprisonment or, then. I don't know, not sure we have to get into the weeds.
And it may be something that we never cross, but it
Mhm.
is something I have seen
Hmm.
come up in the
What if we
past.
took the person part out altogether? We started with any act or violation provision. Person.
Why?
You still have to deal with guilty and et cetera, but
Any,
rather than pointing it to a direct person to say that any violation will be subject to such and such.
Well, if it's gonna be run by the attorney, maybe we could just append a note. When we're sending this.
yeah, just a question
Yeah,
about,
she-
what if there are multiple, what if a single property owner has multiple rental properties?
Wouldn't each property be a separate entity? So if he
Yes.
doesn't have a permit for A, he gets a ticket. If he
Oh,
doesn't have
yeah.
a Permit for B, he gets a ticket.
Yeah, but what she's saying
It's
is
not
that
what
a
multiple-
person could have all of those, and then this thing says the person.
Any
They
person
argued
who
that they could only
commits.
do the one because that's the person. I
I-
get it,
I've-
it seems like a valid argument.
I've seen it happen.
Okay,
I haven't seen.
so we would need to add verbiage. In case of a single owner with multiple rental properties,
Single person.
single
I
person.
guess it's if we have to be attorney. She may not like it at all. I did speak with it and I says.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
She did ask me, my opinion about it. I hadn't read it yet. And she had said that she made the reference that maybe this was too harsh. But then I brought up, I asked her what our liabilities. in the Town would be if, say, someone was running a short term. And it burned down, it didn't have a permit, like where would our standing be as a town? And then she said, okay, so maybe you are.
That was one of the reasons that, I was talking earlier about this, being a fine of like up to $250. Because a judge has to make, an ethical conclusion that his, sentence meets the crime. Right? So that falls in his lap. That should be able to look at this and say, well, this is not a $250 fine, it's a $25 fine. So that at least leaves it open and gives the judge some discretion to decide on it. So it's not like everyone's gonna be too big.
Right, and she did mention that it also, we had to get something, penalty wise in it.
Started.
as soon as
Oh,
possible.
yeah.
Because
That's
something
what we're doing now, right? Yeah, get it in.
But doesn't that address it, Steve? Because it says a fine of not more than
Yep.
250,
Yeah,
doesn't?
that's
Oh,
exactly what I asked.
okay.
when I first put in.
Yeah.
Well, that was
Right.
actually was in the code. But I think if you look at A and B. The whole idea of this is to get people to go. for it.
Right, we're not.
Yeah, these were the ones that I thought were.
So- Well, D, well, A is just saying that, we're trying to get people to comply.
Right, it says seek voluntary compliance in the same chapter that talks about fining you if you don't. So that's why I found that weird.
Well, we went, it's a good cop day.
That's not sounding like a good chapter.
I agree. You could maybe not move on criminal stuff and down below, you could get a restraining order. Stopping them from renting. Just like you do a stop work order, you can order without a court, but we, instead of going through the whole criminal stuff in B.
Hmm.
You could go to D and the town could just go to court and get an injunction. Against the operator, and then it becomes a court matter,
Right.
because then if you get an injunction, then you violate a court order, and that's. Comes with the whole set.
Yeah, I got the idea of the D, I guess the only reason I thought that was weird was just because it was any competent jurisdiction, normally it's. Your town court. I don't know why it would go to any other jurisdiction.
Well, if you're confident.
Well, we try to be.
What
I
if it's
don't know if we
you?
should call us into.
What if it's
question.
you that owns the short-term rental and didn't get your permit? Meaning,
That would be a conflict.
what if it's the judge? Or somebody else is the judge?
Oh, and you had to
It would have to go
refuse.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
go to district court.
But it would still have to come to court for the refusal. Has to start here because it's the jurisdiction.
Anyway, I guess I would throw the whole thing at the lawyers.
So you're saying Sheila has seen this or,
She had mentioned. I spoke.
okay. Um. So typically we would submit something from the planning board to the town board at this point in this process. And the town would set, have the attorney look for it. And I understand the need for speed in this. So it's gone to the, I'm just saying, should we as a planning board formally submit this to the town board? As is, with the comment that, we need some verbiage in case of a single person with multiple properties.
Yeah, just the question.
Just a question.
Um,
Submit that to the town board and say, here's our proposal for the regulation.
But would you ask in the town board that not to?
I was assuming the town board's gonna talk to the attorney first.
I think that's what we've done. We've submitted
We did that on-
amendments
Yeah, with the solar and the.
to the town board and they've then. Actually, the attorneys usually looked at it before, but from a process standpoint. What do you,
Because we have it in our budget, we send stuff to attorney to,
right.
I just hate sending a proposal that we're not all 100% on board with. In the idea that it still has to be. reviewed.
It'll have to be reviewed. Well,
Well, but we did that with the solar, everything that I've been involved with. We've approved and then it's gone to the board.
and then,
Immediately sends it to the attorney to look at.
and then the town board acts
Acts
on
on the
any,
final.
on the final. So I don't know that
But
it
if we
comes
go
back to the
attorney
planning board again.
first, That's gonna delay it.
I don't have any problem sending it up, I just hope.
Okay.
The attorney does keep looking at it. But we have when we've developed things in the past, particularly when we were faced with this thing where a lot of our proposals make it up to the town board and stall real hard. Particularly because there's some little question, they get hung on it. We decided that we would dot all the i's and run it through the attorney and come up with something that we were 100% solid with and say, this is it. Now, we've done that in the past, I'm not saying we have to do that here, but. In my mind, as long as an attorney thinks that this thing will fly and it's enforceable.
Thoughts, my thought would be send it to the town board and let them act on it. Any other thoughts?
Just reiterate. They're in
Yep.
agreement.
Right,
I just have one more question.
Sure.
And under A, we say. Where such voluntary compliance cannot be obtained within a reasonable time. Reasonable time is really quite vague, and I feel like. Joe's gonna have a hard time ever getting to B, C, or D. What's
Oh,
reasonable?
yes, what's
Who-
reasonable?
Who decides what's reasonable?
So I've actually run into this problem. For where that it specifically calls out a reasonable amount of time, and the judge pointed out that reasonable to him could be different, from reasonable to the plaintiff. Or to the defendant. So
We hate ambiguous terms.
Yeah.
it seems to be standard practice in the lawyer.
Yeah, tell me
Well-
stuff like this, like. This thing in 15 days. Reasonable is very ambiguous.
and what is the code, what does the existing regulation
Didn't we have something
Yeah.
about within 6 months?
within? Yeah, that was my question. Don't we
When-
have something,
When that was
chapter
their
97?
initial
That's
rollout.
initial rollout.
I don't know if that was in the.
That was
code,
the,
Or that was what we put on the post.
I know we put that on the
I
postcard.
think
I
the
think.
town board allowed that. Time periods. I don't think we put it in the. code.
Well,
I'm kind of the mind that there shouldn't be a time period, and in my mind, ultimately, once once this is in play and people are complying with short-term rentals, if our code enforcement officer sees a violation, he should be able to write an accusatory and not have to wait. So if he sees the violation and see that they never hit the ticket, take it to the judge. Oh, no, this voluntary compliance thing, that's gonna work.
Or you can take out within a reasonable time. I mean, I'm assuming the procedure is you'll hear of something and you'll send someone a letter. And ask them to respond.
They asked the code enforcement sent.
Right, sent a,
letters in the past, and I got a lot of opportunities for the person to comply. And really, once the violation goes and the person goes before the judge, usually the judge also gives them time. He says, well, let's adjourn this to next month. Go take care of this, get your permit, come back and we'll talk about a sentence.
Oh, yeah, I mean, and then they get a lawyer involved and they can drag it out for quite a while. Keep fighting it.
right, they can keep renting in the meantime.
Except for, we're allowing the town to go to a competent court and get an injunction.
It should, I just want the code to stop work.
Just do immediate stop.
No, you can't, it's not a stop work order. It's not, you'd have to go to a court to get that.
Go ahead, Paul.
To go along with what Steve was talking about. Should A be on a postcard? And not in the law? Because A, you're saying, well, we want you to voluntarily do this. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to anybody. This is what happens when you break the law, the
Yeah.
B, C, and D.
Yeah, I'm really down with A. I think we could probably set A all together.
The,
It's trying to do this.
I know you're trying to be nice and give people.
Yeah, but like I said, that's more of a public service announcement.
yes,
I know, but
That's not a part of the,
you know what people are gonna do,
Penalty for
they're
the-
gonna see this and go, these assholes are, you know, immediately wanna throw me in jail, blah, blah, blah. No, we want you to voluntarily comply.
does that belong in the penalty phase?
And if you haven't complied at this point, how are you going to have?
Under,
You know what? Solid.
Really though, this guy's gotta be able to walk down there, see a violation and read it.
We do have a compliance and penalties. I'm not sure why this is 9712 and not part of 97.8.
97.8.
Is it, am I in the wrong section? This
No,
is
you're in the
short-term
correct,
rentals, right?
that's the correct section.
It's a page number here.
97:6. It's section 8, 97, section 8. Page is 97:6.
that's to be revoked. These are for people who don't even apply.
So this is. So, but there should be some. Okay, so this section is for if you get a permit
And then you violate.
and you
And you
violate.
violate it,
conditions,
yeah.
You are having loud parties, you don't have enough
Right,
parking, whatever. So,
You've got your permit and then you
and
rent
because,
it out to X number more people.
because one of the penalties is to revoke the short-term rental permit. Part
okay.
part
so
5 is
that
to,
makes
so it
sense. I'm
needs,
just-
yeah,
Want to make sure we're making, so we need some sort of A to describe that these are people who have not gotten a permit.
right.
So that we can understand that this is a different section than 97-8.
And as far as Paul's comment, the town board is ready to send another mailing like they did the initial one.
Yep.
Announcing this requirement again. You know, that,
Well, it wouldn't be really announcing it again, it's more or less now that they're now developed, now it's going to be, could be fine.
yeah, they were gonna put that on the postcard thing, but the general mailing.
It's not voluntary, you could be fined for not doing
And
Yeah,
So I understand what you're saying. The language maybe needs to be tweaked, but I think that we need an A to make the differentiate that 97-8 is for people that have gotten a permit and violated the conditions of
the
permit.
permit, yeah,
And this is for people who have not gotten a permit.
correct.
So there's two different penalty sections. So we need to make it clear that this section is for the people who have not gotten the permit. So we need some sort of
Should
intro.
maybe something along the lines that in order to have a short-term rental, you must get a permit. It's not a voluntary thing. You don't wish you would get one. We're telling you, you have to get one. And if you don't, these are the penalties that you're gonna look at. Deal with.
And I,
So if we take solid waste 103-4, I added A just because I thought, friends will be nice about it, but it says. Any person commits or permits any acts of violation. Provision, this article shall be built in violation. So
How many short-term rentals do you think there are?
A and B
He thinks there are a lot.
and C, you just eliminate A if you want.
Yeah.
but I still think that
That's exactly how we have other.
that B just
I know, I was
isn't
looking at-
clear that
He thinks that about. 50 or
it's
60.
people that
Oh, I.
have not gotten a permit versus the people who have gotten a permit and violated it. I think we need to make that clear.
But then. If they violated a permit, revoke the permit.
I believe. that's what
Yes,
the penalty
That's one of the
And then
penalties is
they
to
keep
revoke the
renting.
permit. That's in,
That's a good point. If their permit is revoked and they keep renting, then they would get bumped to this.
So then they would fall under this. I would say eliminate A if you want to make it exactly, that's verbatim from solid waste. No,
so we'd be consistent.
with our code.
I think what I'm hearing is everybody thinks A should, it's too nebulous or too iffy, so we eliminate A.
I say we
Uh.
change A to something like any, and maybe this is where we get the property piece in, any property owner operating a short-term rental without a permit shall be dealt with as otherwise provided for in this chapter. And then we go B, C, D.
Sounded pretty good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Cause then we're
it sets the
also,
ground rules, yeah.
Birch had a good catch that, maybe somebody they get a permit and they get it revoked and they keep operating. We need to then also catch them in this penalty section.
Okay.
Would you like that?
That's fine, I added A. But I added A because I thought we should make it sound like that's trying to bring the food down without first getting someone to change.
Mhm.
Not to
But-
be the water, but it seems like we would have to adjust 97.8 compliance and penalties a little before this chapter. Just because the first sentence says that violations of this section. Shall be subject to enforcement penalties prescribed in this chapter. It would actually be 97.12.
This is a violation of the permit, 97-8.
Yeah,
This is for someone who already has a permit. And they violate it. And it gives the,
But this 97.8 doesn't say permit, it says violations of this section.
but B. If a CEO either witnesses or receives a written complaint of an alleged violation of this section. Or of the short-term rental permit issued. The CEO shall properly record it and then talks about the consequences here.
And I understand what you're saying for A, but maybe we just need to lose of this section. Violations of any short-term rental permit issued pursuant to this section shall be subject to. And then it goes into B 1 through 5.
Eventually, the rest of it's fine. It just seems like that. My first
sentence doesn't entirely apply once you put this in.
So A would be just eliminated,
No, which one?
97.8.
No, I think we would still, because we still need to explain that this section is for people who
Oh,
have
yes.
violated the permit.
Right,
So I think that we
Yeah.
could just lose of this section. And then it would just say violations of any short-term rental permit issued pursuant to this section shall be subjected
okay.
to enforcement and penalties prescribed in this chapter. And then that's for people who are not picking up their garbage or pumping their septic
so,
or something.
so violations of any short-term rental permit.
We would just scratch basically these 3 words of this section,
Right. Or,
or those 4 words, yep.
right, so this. Violations of any short-term rental permit issued, so that
Yep.
modifies that. Leaving this open for 97.12. In its final form. And you gave a pretty good,
Yeah, here I wrote it down.
okay, good.
I said for A, I said, any
Yeah.
property owner who operates a short-term rental without a permit may be dealt with as otherwise provided for in this chapter. And then we go
That's-
into.
and then
B,
you go into
C,
B,
and
C,
D.
and D.
That's a new A.
That's the new
That's the,
A.
what she read
My
would be the new
my
A.
proposed
Yeah,
A.
you just keep the last, or the last sentence. Want to read it again? Any property owner who operates a short-term rental without a permit may be dealt with as otherwise provided for in this chapter. And that goes to BCD.
It's no fuzzy stuff for birch.
And, but I,
Come on, be nice.
It's good.
Determine that.
We were nice when we sent out the first post.
First postcard,
The
and you,
first
and you see what that got us, right? No, there's only been one mailing. They want to do a second mailing, but we said shouldn't send out a second mailing until we get something in the code as leverage for it. So we'll submit this to the town board.
You want me to rewrite the document and send it?
Excellent, yes.
So this is how I'm gonna write it.
And then with the proposal, we will also mention that there will be an amendment to chapter 97, section 8A. Where we would delete those 4 words. Let's have a motion to do that then. Have a motion to submit the amended proposal to the town board for their action.
I so moved.
White,
I will second.
Caitlin, any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Sound good, Joe? And they'll get it before their February meeting and
So I'll make the changes tomorrow and send it to Christopher and the town board, or do you want me to send it?
send it to
you?
me. And then I, as the chairman, will say, proposal,
And then you gotta have this.
and I'm gonna add this other about the
97A.
deletion, correction, chapter 97, section 8A. Excellent, thank you, Birch.
I haven't done it yet.
Well,
You got to start on it. Okay, thank you. Last privilege of the floor. Steve Groth.
My understanding is, last few years, that we're not allowed to carry over any training.
That's correct.
Okay, well, I don't know, I was putting out my desk the other day and I came across the resolution from Chris back in 2019. And it addresses planning board training carryover. And it says, basically, it says, whereas the town board of the town of Canada wants to ensure training is current, blah, blah, blah. New York State provides for the ability to carry over and apply training hours in excess of the 4th to the following year. And so this board thereby declared that any additional training hours in excess of 4 must be used the following year and cannot be carried over for more than 1 year. That's what it says.
Is that the most up-to-date one?
Well, think so. It's December of 2019, so.
Is that the planning board or the county board?
This comes from the town of Canada, it's downloaded.
I feel like it was amended in twenty.
I think it was amended.
Was
I
there,
feel like
was
I
there an
remember.
amendment one? from that
Yeah.
thing?
I think we.
I'm
talked
pretty
about it
certain
over
this-
Zoom.
Really?
I think that's not
When
the.
we were-
most reform.
Huh. I just saw it and I don't remember the amendment one. I thought, well, geez, I didn't understand.
I'm pretty certain that there was an
Really?
amendment that said.
I don't know the whole thing. Mr. Chairman, I got enough, probably the training will last me to.
Okay,
Say, just the last one, did anybody hear about the accident out here this afternoon? It's right across from the church, basically. I come down about 2:30, the guy was, somebody was headed north. Well, he went right over the road, the other side of the road, and the car was upside down. The Hyundai Fire Department there, the ambulance, trooper, county, fire department truck. It was completely way down in that, I think the ditch is deep. Completely upside down.
no, there was an accident last week down 37 just past Howcroft going down. There's a big SUV out in the ditch on the right side. They were
People forget that.
pulling that out.
This guy was upside down. I couldn't see him.
Okay.
Well, they
no.
forgot how to drive in those.
Anything else?
The roads were dry.
Motion to
So just,
adjourn.
no, I have one more, just want to let you know that, we do have I've been speaking with the owner of 2 properties on the lake, one on Pine Haven and one on County Road 36. One person owns both properties. One has an easement to the lake across his other property. He wants to sell property where the old restaurant was, right? Wants to sell that, but he wants to buy the easement, so it's no longer an easement. Well, that would violate our zoning, so I had already met with the surveyor and pointed out that, but in light of our new process, I'm gonna have to talk to, I guess I'll talk to the surveyor. Have him refer him to you and have him submit applications directly to you. But just for your information, they are talking about that.
It was denied by planning board in 2007, the same. Piece that you're trying to sell.
Really, it was.
In the property file.
Oh, that makes it easy then. Right? If it was denied.
I'm not sure if it was for what reason. It was for.
2007, it wasn't zoning then, but it might have been site plan or something. Okay, well, anyway, just there is some activity going on around that and a possibility coming. Anything else? Now I'll take your motion.
Motion to adjourn.
And you seconded it, right, Paul? Or Dwight, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. It's valuable stuff.
You got your mic.
Survey.
Oh, I'm the one that.